These are some of the most disturbing crimes that happen in the K-pop community, and each case gets considerably worse. It's the mid-late 90s. Ibon is a famous singer and actress. She worked her way up to celebrity status by first appearing in multiple TV dramas, and then transitioned into the music industry, where she debuted as an idol, which is pretty much just a K-pop singer. She has a really strong fan base and is at the height of her success, which would inevitably have its horrifying downsides. Ibon is just filming for one of her projects like any other day, when she notices that the weather got pretty cold. It is autumn after all. She has about 20 minutes of filming left before she's able to go home, so her manager goes to her car to turn on the engine.
아니요, 그때 촬영이 끝나고 좀 날씨가 추웠어요. 추워서 차를 이제 좀 시동을 걸어놓고.
And after the 20 minutes pass, Ibon is ready to wind down and go home. She walks down this long staircase to get to her car, when suddenly everything goes dark. It's not until the next day that she wakes up again, and she isn't in the car nor at her house. She's in a room that she doesn't recognize.
그리고 나서 아침에 눈을 딱 떴어요. 내 방이 아닌 거야.
There's nobody around her. She didn't drink or anything, so why can't she remember where she was? And then Ibon realizes the dark truth. She had been kidnapped and most likely spiked. And then she hears a voice. Why did you bring her and cause all of this trouble? The kidnapper and somebody else were having a conversation, but it doesn't seem like they want to do something bad to Ibon. So she stands up and walks up to them, not knowing what would happen next. The person who just kidnapped her tells Ibon that he did what he did because his brother is a huge fan of hers. They were Saseng fans, people who go to extreme lengths. They kidnap, they film and break into private property just to get the chance to talk to their celebrities, or in this case, idols. After Ibon realized that they were just fans, she doesn't actually contact the police. Instead, she actually asks them to show her around the neighborhood. She doesn't think of them as active threats anymore, and so she spends a couple of hours with them and is eventually actually able to leave without being harmed anymore. The next day, Ibon is recovering from this shocking and bizarre situation when she sees a yellow luxury sports car parked in front of her house. It's a gift from the fans, and they actually propose to her, but obviously she just rejects them and is finally able to move on. She got away unharmed, which is unfortunately not the case for 13-year-old Xiaoping. November 8th, 2013 should have been just another school day for her. But even though she lived in Beijing, her obsession for K-pop would cost her her life that very day. Xiaoping started off as an excellent student. She managed to get into an extremely prestigious middle school that was known for its top-tier students. And even among her elite peers, she still managed to do pretty well. Her dad, Lee, was extremely proud of that fact. He only had a primary school education, and since his wife was disabled and mostly hospitalized, their financial situation was always very difficult. Their main source of income was a living allowance from their grandparents. The fact that Xiaoping was working towards a great diploma just meant that she had a ticket to a better life. It was normal for her to live in the school dorms, and she would just return to her home every Saturday to be with the family. But as time passed, Xiaoping would suddenly start spending more and more time on the computer when she was home. She would stay up until late at night. Her father didn't pay attention to it at first, but it did worry Lee just a tiny bit. Once the new school semester rolled around though, things started changing dramatically. Xiaoping decided she would no longer live in the dorms, but instead live at home full-time again and just get a taxi to school every day. The taxi fees weren't gonna be cheap, but if that meant that Xiaoping would be able to focus on her studies better, so be it. Lee just complied. But this is when everything started falling apart. Xiaoping spent more and more time on her computer, and her grades began to slip. Lee didn't know what was going on. what did she actually do on that computer that consumed all of her living hours? What was actually more important than her grades and her future? So one night, he took a peek and found out that she was obsessed with the K-pop group EXO. She spent all of her waking hours promoting this K-pop group. All she did was engage with posts, listen to their songs, and other various things to get the group ranked higher on the music charts, which is a common thing for K-pop groups to encourage. It is often so that fan clubs are established by agencies and companies to purposefully influence their fans to complete certain tasks, such as writing comments, listening to their music X amounts of times, and doing other things. And Xiaoping was in the midst of it all. The more she supported EXO, the more status she would also gain within her own fan group. She would be so active, matter of fact, that she would even become somewhat of a role model and leader in her small circle of supporters. Lee was completely overwhelmed by this fact. It seems like his daughter has lost all of her drive and ambition just to support this boy band. But he didn't know how to talk to her, so he just gave in, at least for now. On October 19th, 2013, EXO was going to hold a concert in Beijing, which naturally prompted Xiaoping to ask her father for tickets. They cost around 1,200 yuan, or $160. This was Lee's monthly salary, but he actually agreed. It was the thing that would make his daughter happy after all. However, Xiaoping didn't just ask for one ticket. She asked for another 1,200 yuan to buy a ticket for another fan. Since she was the leader of her small fan circle, she had to provide when they couldn't. This was unimaginable for Lee. 1,200 yuan was already a huge amount of money, and she now wanted to buy a ticket for somebody she barely knew, so he simply refused. But that didn't stop Xiaoping from getting what she wanted. She decided to go to her grandparents for the money. They surely couldn't say no to their own granddaughter. And she was right. Her grandparents gave her the money, and she just went behind her own father's back for it. This was the first real crack in their relationship. It's 7 AM, and it's been a couple of weeks since she attended EXO's concert. Today is one of Xiaoping's most important days of her life. She is going to write her entrance exam that would quite literally decide her future. Lee asks Xiaoping to get ready and goes down to call her a taxi as always. But 10 whole minutes pass and Xiaoping is still in her room. Lee calls her again, but it just seems like she has no intention of listening to her father today. The taxi driver actually leaves, taking the money and leaving Lee embarrassed. He is furious. This is the second crack of their relationship. He goes upstairs and opens the door, only to find Xiaoping at her computer. Her books are all over the floor. Everything is messy and she's not ready to go anywhere. Xiaoping is still doing her daily tasks to support EXO. Lee is yelling at her and tells her that she's obsessed with celebrities that don't even know or care for her. She thinks about her idols more than her own future. This sentence absolutely breaks Lee. He snaps. He goes to the kitchen and picks up a knife. He wants to scare her with it, but then she does something that just spirals the entire situation out of control. She hits him and says, "Idols are better parents than you." And just a few minutes later, by the time Lee comes back to his senses, his daughter is motionless on the ground. He lost one of the only people he truly cared for. He drops the knife and picks up the phone to turn himself in. In April of 2014, Lee was sentenced to 12 years in prison, with his final statement being, "I wish I could go back in time to play with my daughter again, but it's irreparable." September 23rd, 2016, South Korea. A young woman walks into a police station. She's here to report a crime. Her ex-boyfriend filmed molka, a term that refers to taking videos of women without their knowledge or consent.
일단 몰카라는 단어는 한국에만 있는 단어고 정확한 워딩은 불법 촬영물이라는 건데요. 여성이 인지하지 못하는 상황에서 본인이 수치심을 느낄 만한 상황을 카메라로 담고
According to her, they had slept together when she caught him, taking videos of her during the act.
실제로 몰카가 일어날 수 있는 곳은 너무나 많고요. 연인 사이 찍을 수 있는 것, 누군가의 인생을 망가뜨리기 위해서 이 몰카를 찍어서 유포를 할 수 있는 그런 것들이 있고
2 days later, the ex-boyfriend is questioned by the police. They want to take a look at his phone, but he refuses. Instead, he calls his lawyer and leaves his phone with a private forensics company. They are supposed to see if he did indeed film his girlfriend. An IT specialist gets his phone on his desk. We will call him Lee. Lee's mission is to recover every single thing this phone ever stored, and he's pretty good at his job. He recovers a lot of data, over 200,000 text messages, countless videos and photos. If there was any evidence the police needed, the phone would have it now. But then Lee gets a call from the lawyer.
경찰하고 오는 얘기는 다 됐고 좀 있으면 가실 건데 지금 전화드린 이유가 저희로서도 복원이 되든 안 되든 상관이 전혀 없는데 경찰에서는 차라리 복원 불가가 오히려 나을 것 같다라고 지금 말씀을 하셔서 그렇거든요. 이게 그냥 쓸데없는 고소 사건이 돼나가지고.
But that is not it. The lawyer says that the ex-girlfriend dropped all of the charges anyway. She was just angry and lashed out on him. There was no evidence that the ex-boyfriend was a criminal in any way, but Lee knows the truth. He was just unwillingly dragged into one of the darkest and most disturbing secrets of South Korea. He sees thousands of pictures and videos of unconscious women being essayed, whole group chats of people making fun of that fact, and people discussing the prices for one night with these women, catalogs of them for sale. Lee is sure that this is some kind of organized crime ring that nobody knows about. People that operate in the dark doing these despicable crimes. That is until he looks at the names of the members of the group chat and he recognizes every single one. The phone belongs to Chung Jun-young, a multi-talented, famous singer, actor, and TV personality.
Rock and roll!
He is this edgy, popular guy that girls drool over, and he's in this group chat, posting pictures of unconscious women and even more disturbing things. But he isn't the only famous person in this group. Almost every single one is a celebrity of some sorts. Lee Jung-young, guitarist of CN Blue, Shea Chang-hoon, leader and guitarist of FT Island, and Lee Sang-young, also called Sang-yi, a member of the boy band Big Bang. All of them are world stars. The entirety of South Korea loves them, idolizes them, and all of them are actively participating in human trafficking.
최종훈은 그 안에서 물론 정준영과 마찬가지로 여자를 너무너무 밝히는 모습이었지만
Lee looks through everything and sees them joking about gang essaying a singular woman the night before they did a fan meeting. But that isn't the only vile thing he notices. The celebrities mention that they have higher ups of the police on their side. They're all in on it.
FT 아일랜드 최종훈이 음주운전을 했는데 그 음주운전을 어떤 경찰이 막아줬다라는 내용이 눈에 띈 거였어요. 사실 저는 그 내용을 보고 정말 다리가 떨릴 정도로 깜짝 놀랐었거든요.
He doesn't know what to do, and so he returns the phone and closes the case by saying that he wasn't able to restore any data. But not before he makes a copy of every single text message, photo, and video that would later expose one of the biggest scandals in Korean entertainment history. 2018, Sung-yi, the member of the boy band Big Bang I already mentioned, is absolutely huge in Korea. If not for his music, he's known for his incredibly fancy and insane parties. His nickname is the Great Gatsby. He throws events that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and takes Korea by storm with his new image. But if you aren't a celebrity, there's simply no way you can attend one of his great parties. Until February 23rd, 2018, where Sung-yi, alongside a couple of investors, opened the nightclub Burning Sun. a super high-end club with the richest celebrities, businessmen, and attractive women. No matter who you are, if you're currently in South Korea, you have to experience the Burning Sun at least once. And Sung-hee made sure that it was the thing to do in Korea. In the first couple of weeks, the club makes $1.4 million. Half of the population tries to experience this club at least once. And the wealthy guests spend generational wealth there. Burning Sun's menu consists of normal drinks, but also their extremely expensive alcohol packages and VIP tables. The most basic alcohol set starting at $10K all the way up to $100,000. And that was only the legal side of their business. The shady side most likely made a lot more, but I'll get to that very soon.
경찰이 오늘 버닝썬에 대한 압수수색을 시작으로 이번 압수수색 대상에는 강남경찰서 역삼지구대가 포함됐는데 버닝썬과 경찰과의 유착 의혹도 확인하기 위해서입니다.
Despite Burning Sun's reputation as this high-end establishment, it quickly gathered unsettling stories about it. Amy was one of the thousands of people who wanted to know what Burning Sun was like. All of her friends told her how great it was. And they were the biggest introverts, so there had to be some truth about it. A friend of a friend eventually approached Amy and said that she goes there quite regularly, and so they decide to go together. But the moment they step inside the club, Amy gets offered a very weird pill by the girl and is encouraged to take it. A pill that would later turn out to be one of the substances that turns you into a zombie. A state where you would just agree to everything you're told. And that friend would turn out to be a worker at the club.
물뽕이라는 마약은 굉장히 많이 사용이 됐어요. 보통 물뽕을 사용하는 테이블들이 보통 어디냐면 룸이 이제 깊숙이 들어가야 하는 룸이 하나 있었는데 왜냐하면 그 앞에 가드가 많았기 때문에 거기서는 솔직히 말해서 무슨 일을 하든 소리도 아마 안 들릴 거고.
And there are a couple of stories similar to that out there. But despite that, the general sentiment of the population and the police was, that's just what happens at the Burning Sun. It was a nightclub after all. And that worker might just be a very weird one. Who knows? Nobody really took it seriously.
버닝썬에서 물뽕을 먹고 이제 정신이 나간 여자애들 본 횟수는 거의 매일 봤죠.
November 24th, Kim goes to the Burning Sun with a couple of his friends, excited to see what the hype is all about. They get to partying and the atmosphere is great, but Kim is focused on something else. It's snowing outside. He decides to leave his friends for a while to go outside, but on his way out the club, his focus is redirected again. He sees a woman being dragged by a man. She's only half conscious and desperately tries to get the attention of the workers by smacking her hand on their laptop, but nobody cares.
제가 만났던 클럽 VIP 고객 중에 한 명은 특정하게 이제 어떤 VIP가 특정한 여성을 찍어서 저 여성을 나에게 데려오라라고 하면은 이제 그 여성을 어떻게든 작업해서 데리고 와서 의식이 없는 상태가 된 여성을 데리고 와서 호텔로 올라가거나 아예 차를 타고 다른 곳으로 모처로 이동한 경우도 있었다고 합니다.
Kim is the only one who steps in and blocks the man's way. He tries to stop whatever in the hell is happening right now. It sure isn't right. That's all he knows. All of the workers now get up too, but instead of helping Kim, they beat him up. They drag him outside and punch him repeatedly in front of the club until he has 3 broken ribs and bruises everywhere. What Kim didn't know was that the man he tried to stop was a VIP special client. A big spender who has access to perks that nobody except the VIP clients and the workers know of. The woman he dragged, that was just one of his little perks that he paid for.
그런 동영상들이 워낙 많았고 그런 게 많았기 때문에 그때는 그게 그렇게 문제된다는 생각은 잘 안 했죠.
Despite the pain, Kim manages to call the police and explains what the employees of the club just did to him. Once they arrive, he shows the police the CCTV cameras that are outside and tells them that that would be all the evidence they needed to arrest the workers. And so the police go inside the club to review the footage. They talk to the employees and then go back outside. But again, they're not here to arrest the employees. They arrest Kim instead and drag him to the police station. And even the police beat him and trip him on the way there.
제가 취재를 했었던 많은 클럽의 관계자들은 경찰에게 현금을 주기도 했다라고 증언을 했거든요. 사건을 무마할 때 그럴 때 뭐 그런 접촉을 했다라는 얘기를 많이 했습니다. 그래서
Kim is completely fed up with all of it. And so he decides to turn to social media with everything, trying to expose every detail he witnessed at Burning Sun. But he doesn't just talk about how they beat him and how the police are corrupt, but he talks about how he heard women screaming in private rooms. He goes on interview after interview, and it goes viral. But there's one major problem. There's no concrete evidence, and it turns into a he said, she said situation. Burning Sun makes statements of their own, saying that Kim was actually the one who essayed women, which is why they beat him up outside. Some people think Kim is a bad guy, and some believe him. And a lot of people are just confused. There's one major shift though. More and more women decide to step forward and tell their own horror stories.
바닥으로 내려와서 무릎 꿇고 빌었어요. 집에 보내달라고. 그 엄마가 너무 보고 싶다고 집에 보내달라고 계속 울면서 빌었어요.
Now that somebody else was fighting on the forefront, people might stop saying that that's just what happens at the Burning Sun. And then private videos start to spread. A video of an unconscious woman inside a private room in the club goes viral on platforms other than YouTube. And there's no denying that the club is in on it and knows about it. Since the employees talk about the situation, there's now no question about it. There's very shady and illegal things happening inside this club. But on February 22nd, 2019 is where hell breaks loose. Lee, the one who made a carbon copy of all the text messages, decides to go to a lawyer with the evidence. He is scared. He knows he should have submitted the evidence ages ago, but the police is corrupt and all of these celebrities have so much influence. But he also knows that he is the one who can put a definitive end to all of it.
카카오톡 이 단톡방을 처음 접하게 된 건 그 익명의 제보자가 그 파일이 담긴 USB들을 저희 사무실 그 우체통에 넣고 이제 갔거든요.
Now you might think that such private information being leaked would be a 1 in a million case. Surely this could never happen to you, right? Well, it's actually the case that data brokers are most likely actively buying your information without you even knowing about it. If you've ever received a spam call or email, for example, that means that your information was sold to advertisers and it's just out there on the internet. Your address, phone number, and name could possibly be used for identity theft. But there's one good thing actually. These data brokers are required to remove your information if you request it. The only problem is that it takes hours to actually go through every single company. And more often than not, you don't even know any of these data brokers yourself. And this is where the sponsor of this video, Incogni, can help. They will actually go through all of the work for you and contact these data brokers to remove your information without you having to do anything essentially. If you don't want to get your identity stolen, your information leaked, or people finding out where you live, I highly recommend using the code YAPMASTER with the link in the description and you'll get an exclusive 60% discount off of an annual Incogni plan. It will help out the channel immensely and also help with your privacy. The lawyer reviews all of the footage, all of the chat logs, and together they go to the media with it. And on February 26, 2019, SBS Fun E, a major television channel, reports on the messages.
당시 역삼지구대 경찰 2명이 출동했는데 이 버닝썬 클럽 안에 들어가지도 않고 문 앞에서 돌아갔습니다. 입구에 서 있던 보안 요원이 VIP 룸에는 손님이 없다는 말만 듣고 철수한 겁니다. 하지만 신고 사건 처리표엔 확인한 바라고 거짓으로 써놓기까지 했습니다.
Talks and videos of Gang SA, videos of unconscious women, and they're all joking about it. These messages perfectly explain the thought-out underground business that Burning Sun was built for from day one. Burning Sun had a very special menu for the VIPs that were regulars. The people who spent a lot of money didn't just get a separate entrance to the club, but were also added to a group chat. And similar to how menus change every week for certain drinks, the group chat would send messages of tonight's specials as well as the weekly offer. But instead of drinks, it was women. Unconscious women who have been SA'd with a price tag on them, and the VIPs could simply buy them for the night. If somebody else wanted your woman, you could simply bid on her, the highest bidder being able to SA that person again.
함께 술을 나눠 마셨다고 하더라고요. 그리고 여성들은 술자리가 얼마 되지 않아서 거의 일부분은 거의 기억을 다 잃을 정도로 다 까먹었대요.
All of the employees were in on it as well. Every time a special VIP came in, the so-called merchants did everything in their might to get them the girl they wanted, whether it was brunettes, ones with a lot of plastic surgery, or simply ones that were intoxicated enough. And these girls on the menu weren't workers. They were simply random clubgoers who just wanted to know what all the fuss was about. The very moment a woman stepped into the club, the employees would note them down and add them to the menu. If a VIP wanted them, the club's bartender would add substances to their drink to make them more agreeable and turn them into a zombie. The club also had a secret bathroom only for the special VIPs, where they could inject other illegal substances and essentially do whatever they wanted. They paid for it after all. This was their true business model. While people did everything to get into these clubs, the women unknowingly signed up to be put on a list for the highest bidder to SA. After all of these leaks hit the public, Burning Sun had no other choice but to stop operations. And it was just a matter of time until the idols were arrested too.
저는 오늘 오전에 저에 대한 엄중한 수사를 촉구드리는 탄원서를 경찰에 제출하였습니다. 하루빨리 이 모든 의혹들이 진상 규명될 수 있도록 성실하게 조사 임하겠습니다.
But it's safe to say a lot of them only got a slap on the wrist for it. Chung Ju-young was originally sentenced to 6 years for SA and illegal filming and distribution of content, but it was reduced to 5 years. He got out in 2023. Chae Chang-eun, member of FT Island, received 2.5 years, and Song-yi was guilty of selling people, embezzlement, overseas gambling, and more, and he got 1 year and 6 months after appeal. And he was essentially the mind behind everything.
국민 여러분과 조련에서 상처받고 피해받으신 모든 분들께 다시 한번 고개 숙여 사죄드립니다.
Sung-yi is already out and still has fans, and made headlines about cheating on multiple women in Bali already. There are also attempts of him getting back into the industry after all of this. The K-pop idol Go Hara also helped uncover some of the corrupt police officers who were involved, but most of them didn't even face any sort of punishment. Similar to this woman, she is the owner of Shinnara Records, a company that had tons of music stores in South Korea back in the 80s and 90s. They were hugely popular because for some reason they were able to sell K-pop albums at such cheap prices. They were so cheap actually that they undercut every single other company that sold the exact same stuff. If you wanted to support your idol, going to Shinnara Records was the go-to. Their super low cost had a dark and sinister secret behind it though. A secret that involves a cult, forced labor, SA, and the death of multiple people.
이 목사로부터 대중을 현혹시키는 수법을 터득한 김 씨는 서울 상계동과 경기도 일대에서 신도 300여 명을 끌어모아 지난 82년
The name of this woman is Kim Ki-sun. She grew up in a modest and religious family. They didn't have a lot of money or any influence, which is why very early on, Kim always had a desire to become somebody people loved or feared. In her early years, she joined a church known as the Shaving Church. It was led by Pastor Lee Kyo-bu. It got its name because people joining were forced to shave their heads, as well as take off their clothes and hug and dance around the church. The followers believed that doing so would mean they would eventually all go to heaven together. It was a controversial religion, but there was nothing illegal about it, until Pastor Lee eventually went to jail for public nudity and being violent towards another pastor, which made the church disband. All of the members had no direction now, and Kim took this opportunity to create her own religion. She tells all of the members that the pastor's spirit has moved into her own body, and she calls herself Baby. From this very moment on, Kim would only refer to herself as a 3-year-old baby, or in Korean, Aga, and she calls her religion the Baby Garden. And the members of the once Shaving Church believe her. They start worshipping Aga. the baby reincarnation of Jesus. She tells them that the baby cannot sin, and since she was one, everything she did was perfect, and if she did make a mistake, it was an honest one.
사람도 빠짐없이 먼저지 못하는 그런 자가 없습니다. 이 역사는 동일하게 한 사람도 빠짐없이 사실은 사랑의 역사요.
Kim quickly made a lot of plans. She wanted to build a self-sufficient farm where she could live with all of the members in unity. But she didn't have the funds to do so. She was just a housewife. And so she tells her followers, give me all of your belongings, all of your family's assets, everything, and give it to the baby. The worshippers listen. Some sell their family house for $500,000 and give it all to their new god. With her sudden influx of capital, Kim buys a massive plot of land and also calls it the baby garden. It is now their very own heaven. Her followers would be able to live with God herself. All of them moved in, and instead of paying somebody to build houses with her wealth, she commands her followers to build them for her. And they also built farms and factories, just to get the love of Aga. For Kim, it was truly heaven. She was suddenly able to buy anything she wanted, and literally had 400 devoted people who would kill for her. But for them, it was actually hell on earth. Her followers suddenly have to work 18-hour days. The adults work on the field or sell rice cakes in the streets, while the kids sell fish rolls at the subway stations. It is gruesome and tiring work for no pay. Most of the time, the fish rolls that were sold didn't even look good or fresh, but the kids looked so exhausted that the adults just bought them out of pity. Kim is now extremely rich, but she wants more. So she creates Shinara Records, the music distribution company that quickly dominates the entire market because of their cheap prices. And you might be able to guess why their prices were so cheap. Allegedly, a majority of the workers for Shinara used to work for completely free because they all worshipped Aga. Among the baby garden factories were also tape factories, which was the first thing they actually sold in their stores. While customers thought they were simply supporting their artists by buying albums, they were secretly funding a cult. Shinara Records was able to get long-term contracts with agencies working for various K-pop groups, and they became a staple in the industry. At one point, they held 30% of the market share in South Korea without anybody knowing what actually happened behind the scenes. Now, if you take a look at the followers of Baby Garden, there were all sorts of people, individuals, but also whole families that all moved in with her. But Kim didn't like a very specific thing about her followers. She didn't like the family dynamics. She didn't like the concept of a mother or a father or a husband or a wife. So she established 3 rules that had to be followed within the baby garden. First rule: cut all ties to compassion and earthly connections. You are forbidden from calling each other mother, father, or siblings. Instead, you can only call them using their government names or by sir or ma'am. Everybody is equal under baby after all. Second rule: cut all ties with material goods. The pursuit of worldly pleasures is dishonorable. You should just donate all of your assets to the leader. You're basically already in heaven after all. You are with the baby. And the third rule: cut all ties with personal desires. Any form of romantic relationship between men and women is strictly prohibited. Men and women are segregated. There are only rooms with either women or men. And you should only have feelings towards Aga. And Kim definitely made use of that last rule. Every night, Kim would call multiple young men into her room. She would wait for them there and then show love towards them. And after she was done, she would call in the next one until she was satisfied. Baby was love after all. This was not love at all. These were young and naive men who were manipulated into not just working for her for 16 hours for free, but also doing anything she wanted besides that. And there was actually one unspoken rule: do not disobey. Even though this religion is all about love, if anybody catches you breaking the rules, if you build a relationship with the opposite sex or don't work properly, the others will beat you. They will beat you until you're free from your sins. Or, sadly, these hellish conditions cost the lives of multiple people. And I will talk about one in detail. This is 5-year-old Nagwon. He moved into baby garden with his parents, obviously not willingly. And once in there, he was more than confused. Suddenly, he can't call his own mother, mother. And he isn't even allowed to show any affection towards her. Every time he does anything that counts as breaking the rules, like hugging his own mother, he gets punished physically by Aga, or rather Kim. This child would get punished by a middle-aged woman who called herself a baby. Every time Nagwon saw Kim, he would start crying out of fear. One day he missed his mother a lot, but he wasn't allowed to see her since she was working, and that made him frustrated, so he pooped and smeared it on the window. When Nagwon's mom finds out, she goes to tell Kim what happened and just says that he misses his mother and doesn't know how to express his feelings. But Kim doesn't care. She simply says to the group, "This child is possessed by an evil spirit. It is trying to harm me." And so Nagwon gets taken into the pig barn on the farm and he's tied up against a pole. His own aunt is there with Kim and a couple of others. And Kim tells her, "This child is possessed by a demon. You need to exorcise him. He should try the feces of the pigs." That is what Kim says. And Nagwon's aunt just agrees. She follows Kim's orders and feeds him. Every time Nagwon would resist, the group would then take out sticks, embed it with nails, and discipline him until Nagwon stops resisting. After all of that, Nagwon's aunt and the group just leave him there. Now, despite his terrible condition, Nagwon actually manages to escape from his ropes and runs to the dining room of the farm to look for any sort of food. He was starving, literally. He only got water from somebody else who was also tied up with him, and so he runs all the way across the farm just for a chance to get some food. But Kim simply returns him to the pig pen, ties him up again, and then the punishments start until he passes away. This cult would flourish for decades. Kids were literally born into this baby garden and grew up to be adults, not attending school or even going outside, except if it was for the 16-hour work shift. Kim's followers only had 4 holidays, meaning they only had 4 days in the year where they could take a break. And even during these holidays, all they would do is hold a big parade for Aga. Until a man walks into a police station. He's here to report the murder of his 5-year-old son. Prosecutor Kang gets a report of Nagwon's death, but 10 years later. "I am a father who deserves to die 1,000 deaths. My son has been murdered," is all he says. Nagwon's dad was in the baby garden for another decade before realizing what had truly happened to his family. Prosecutor Kang is skeptical at first. I mean, Baby Garden literally runs Shinara Records, one of the biggest companies in the K-pop industry. And they have this huge farm with a lot of people, sure, but they're just a small community, nothing else. There's no way they're actually a cult-like religion doing these despicable crimes. But just on the off chance that this was true, on the off chance that Baby Garden was indeed a cult, would mean that this would be Prosecutor Kang's biggest case ever. He accepts. Right off the bat, there were 2 main problems for Prosecutor Kang. Firstly, his superior refused to help him. They simply didn't have the manpower in this district. He has the police as a team, but he's pretty much on his own when it comes to putting together a trial. And secondly, he was going against one of the most wealthy cult-like entities out there. They had millions of dollars at their disposal, and especially Kim has influence in all sorts of ways. But Kang just decides to go full force. And he plans something big. Kim is holding a lecture for her worshippers about how she is love, how they should love Baby, and how Baby is the only truth. When suddenly, the premises get raided by the police. 50 officers and detectives run into the place. The people are panicking, and the only thing you can hear is, "You are surrounded. Surrender." Everybody is running, and some even are fighting back, attacking the officers. But after all of this chaos settles, they realize one thing: the most important person is missing, the baby. Kim managed to escape, which is absolutely tragic. She wasn't a stupid woman. She had the funds, influence, and the manpower to vanish from this earth without a trace. The raid was a bust. When the officers go through the baby garden, they find safes filled with stacks of cash and guns, as well as luxury goods only for Aga. She has a steam room and a luxurious bed, while her followers live in poverty. But all of this doesn't matter when the main target of the operation is gone. Almost none of the cult members, after having the opportunity to leave and speak up, want to rat her out. They just simply start working again like nothing happened. 16-hour days. Kang is sure that he just threw away one of the biggest opportunities of his life. Until Kim appears again. She turns herself in. Her lawyer told her that she will only be held for 3 days and then she would be a free woman. During the interrogations, Kim is completely stoic. She denies all of the murder charges and stays calm and collected. But the detectives have one trick up their sleeve. Nagwan's mom. During the investigation, Nagwan's mom was ready to testify that her son was tortured and eventually passed away due to Kim. This was their ace, that they could also support with a couple of cases that came in from members who were able to leave. The police digs up the entire place for any kind of evidence that a murder actually happened, but they can't find anything, just a lot of pigs. So the entire case truly depends on the witnesses. However, one by one, all of them fold. The witnesses retract their statements in front of the court, saying none of this truly happened. Kim obviously still had influence over them, whether it was with money, threats, or something else. But they're still Nagwan's mom, right? Their only hope to get her convicted as a murderer. She stands up and says, "My son died from a heart condition. He was never tortured." Nagwan's father is furious. The only way this woman could be behind bars for a long time would be for his wife to tell the truth. But she was still influenced by Kim's will. She denied the dark reality about her own son to please the baby. The case was over. She was innocent in the eyes of the law. But despite that, Kang actually manages to prove tax evasion, embezzlement, and assault, which sadly only resulted in 4 years and a fine of $8.9 million, which might sound like a lot, but she paid that in cash. Now you might think after all of this came out, Baby Garden and her entire empire would crumble, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Kim is now 84 years old, and although she's suffering from dementia, Shinara Records is still a pretty big company that proceeds to have long-term contracts with multiple K-pop agencies. And the current CEO is allegedly one of the Baby Garden's closest followers, while quite a lot of people actually still work in the farm. Huge companies like those being exposed for heinous crimes are not an uncommon thing in Korean entertainment history, and Jang Jae-young's notes that were released to the public before she died shows exactly that.
하지만 이 문서를 쓴 고인은 더 이상 이 세상에 없습니다.
Jang Jae-young was born on January 25th, 1980, and from a very early age she had this big dream of becoming an actress, which was a difficult thing to do since she had no sort of support system due to her parents passing away and her being only with her siblings. She managed to make her debut as an actress in 2006, however, with a television commercial, and 3 years later would be the time she would hit her first big role. She played a character in the very popular Korean drama Boys Over Flowers. Jang played the role of Sunny, one of the antagonists or mean girls. It wasn't a lead role, but it put her on the map. And this could have been the beginning of a great future. But for Jang Jae-young, it was the beginning of the end. And that is because she has a very tough time with the management agency she's signed to. The company is called The Contents Entertainment, and it's run by Kim Sang-hoon. They're supposed to help her find her auditions and provide the financial support for training and managers. Basically a bet on her that she would make it big and they would see a return on their investment. But this kind of arrangement comes with one major problem. The company has a lot of influence over her. I mean, if they dropped her, she would be left with basically nothing. So she has to obey whatever order they gave her if she wanted to see success in the industry. It was the only way. And the orders she got from her CEO are way darker than you might think. It's March 7th, 2009, and Jang just finished a call with her older sister. She talked about her stress and how she wanted to become an actress so badly, but it was simply too much of a burden. Everybody knew that Jang was under a lot of pressure, but one thing that she said made her sister worry a lot. She said, "I just want to die." And a couple of hours later, Jang's brother actually tries to call her, but she doesn't pick up. So Jang's sister decides to check up on her at 7:42 p.m. But the moment she steps into the house, she realizes that what Jang said was truly what she meant. She finds her and she's dead. It was self-inflicted. She did, however, leave something behind for the world to read. A 7-page document that exposed CEOs, businessmen, directors, and all sorts of powerful people in Korea. Please avenge me. The man who came to ask to be served is the devil. I was forced to serve more than 100 times. Whenever I get new clothes, I have to serve a new demon. Not only in Gangnam, but I also served at karaoke Suwon and various other places. Even on the anniversary of my parents' death, I was forced to serve. Since I have already made a list of his names, I will take revenge to the death. Even if I die, I will take my revenge from the grave. That was one of the paragraphs in the note translated. Now this serve term essentially meant that she had to entertain these men, and it wasn't entertaining in a normal networking kind of way, but she was forced to do certain things against her will, if you actually get what I'm referring to. And it did take a huge toll on her. And this document was extremely detailed, and she recounted multiple incidents with dates and locations and details. And if she didn't serve these favors, she would lose all of the financial support from her agency and sponsors. And she didn't just name names in the documents. In multiple of these cases, she mentions that her CEO Kim would physically assault and throw bottles at her, and he would grab her by her hair and treat her like a pile of dirt essentially. I'm a powerless rookie actress. I want to be freed from this pain. Now the thing is, she couldn't just leave this company either. Even if she wanted to throw away her career, she was actually bound by a legal contract. A contract that made her a product of this agency, not just an employee. One of the contract clauses that she signed to was basically that she had to do anything the company ordered relating to the entertainment side of the business. And if she didn't follow the orders, she would have to pay $100,000 in fines. And that is not even considering the blacklist threat. If the CEO wanted, he could simply ensure that she would never able to work in industry again. And all of these notes are leaked to the public by her manager. And he actually says that she was planning to sue Kim, the CEO. I mean, he was known for being controlling and abusive, and that document would have been the key to bringing all of these men down. Now, the moment this message hits the media, Jung becomes one of the most talked about actresses at the moment. And what happened next is controversial to say the least. The 31 men she mentioned are obviously interrogated by the police, and most of them say that their encounter was strictly friendly and nothing illegal ever happened. But these are all very powerful people with a lot of influence, and the public thought that something fishy might be going on, since one of the interrogations, for example, only lasted 35 minutes. It seemed like most of the people were getting very good treatments by the police. But there was obviously one big problem. There was no concrete evidence. It was essentially her letters versus their statements of the situation. The letters could also be made up or fake, which will actually be important in just a second. So nobody was convicted of a crime, except for the CEO. And that would be it. Case closed. For almost 10 years, nothing else would happen, until a new person came forward. And this is where things get really messy. Another actress from Jung Jae-young's agency, Yoon Ji-oh, testifies. Yoon was a trainee when Jung was employed with the company, and she was there for about 7 months. Now initially, Yoon told the police that she didn't know of any wrongdoings of the CEO or knew of the fact that Jung had all these meetings that turned inappropriate. But now she says that she saw the entire list of men during these meetings, and she actually goes on interviews and says that she also went to these night meetings with Jung a couple of times. And she asked the public to help her with the case, to reveal the entire truth, to get these men behind bars. Thousands of people in the public support her, since she is essentially this underdog who's willing to go against the Korean entertainment industry, and the people start donating money. According to her, she's being threatened by these powerful men and needs protection. Her life is in danger. But as time goes on, her credibility actually starts to crack. Her stories become increasingly more dramatic as she goes on more interviews, and her stories start to change. And people who actually knew both of them claimed that they weren't even that close. They were simply acquaintances. Now to top this off, Yoon even wrote a book about her called The 13th Testimony. Now there's no denying that both of them knew each other, but if they were truly just acquaintances and Jang never opened up about her problems to her, it would mean that Yoon was simply there to claim the fame of a dead person. And it turned out that was indeed the case. the co-author of the book eventually comes forward and files a lawsuit against Yoon, saying that all of her stories and testimonies were actually just straight lies. And Jang's former boyfriend also came forward and said that he never heard Jang mention her name once. He couldn't believe that somebody he never heard of would write a book about her. And once all of that came out, the public turned on her, and people actually started filing lawsuits against her because they donated money thinking that Yoon was actually close to Jang, but she simply lied to the public and the investigators. And because of that, Yoon actually went to Canada, and there are 3 arrest warrants on her since October 2019. To this day, she claims that she said the truth, and people are simply trying to silence her. But that isn't even the end of the story. Years later, again, new evidence came out. When forensic experts re-examined Jang's document, they found something nobody expected. All of the pages that she left to the world weren't even written by her. The handwriting wasn't consistent. Parts of it had been forged by her former manager, the very person who leaked the paper to the media in the beginning. The manager actually wanted to make his own entertainment company and stole the actresses from his former CEO. And then, never before footage is released. The last images of Jang Jae-young before her death, February 28th. 2009. You can see Jang with her manager multiple times a week, where she gives him a document envelope and a diary. The manager told Jang that he can help her get released from this contract she was in if she simply writes an anonymous testimony of all the things that happened to actually sue the CEO. And so Jang did exactly that. Her letter wasn't a goodbye letter, but a confession to try to get herself out of her desperate situation. And the confession letter actually never should have hit the public in the first place. The manager had promised the family of Zhang to not release the letters, so she could go in peace. And he actually burned them in front of their eyes, but made copies of them and then simply released them either way to better his image and sue the CEO. The case is a complete mess. Because of that evidence, nobody knows what actually happened, and we might never know the full truth. But the manager was arrested because of the blackmail to the CEO, while all the other 31 men got away with it.